Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News. It's Monday, February 23rd, quarter to 4 in the afternoon. And we got a lot of requests for this. So we are going into what we know to be fact on the death of Nemesio, is it Nemesio? Ruben Osegura Cervantes, aka El Mencho, the leader of the Cartel Jalisca Nueva Generación. He is dead, muerto, killed in a Mexican military operation in Jalisco, and with him, two of his close security lieutenants. This is one of the most significant cartel decapitations in modern Mexican history. Before we talk about what it means, we need to understand exactly what happened because the story being told inside Mexico is far more detailed than what you're seeing in the English headlines and is usually as such. Okay, this was not a random firefight. It was not a lucky checkpoint stop. Spanish language Mexican reporting makes clear this was the result of a focused intelligence hunt. Mexican federal intelligence, reportedly working with U.S. technical support, had been tracking someone inside Mencho's trusted inner circle. That tracking led to authorities going to a property in Tapalpa, Jalisco, the mountainous terrain historically favorable to CJNG defensive operations. In the early mornings before sunrise, Mexican military units moved to establish a perimeter. The objective appears to have been capture, but when forces attempted to close in, the cartel gunmen opened fire immediately. And this is considered with crew-served weapons, perhaps, and automatic rifles. And this was not a small scattered arms resistance. I believe the number is around 25 guardsmen killed. It is the single worst day for the Mexican National Guard since they started the Mexican National Guard, I'm assuming. Records describe sustained automatic weapons fire and heavy weapons engagements from Mencho's security detail in a coordinated defensive posture. This is consistent with CJNG doctrine. When leadership is threatened, you have to escalate. They are pushing the fight. The firefight intensified quickly. Helicopters were reportedly engaged. Ground units took casualties. The battle was prolonged enough to demonstrate organized resistance, not chaos. These are the hardcore trained individuals that you keep hearing about and don't believe exist. Sometime during the exchange, Mencho was wounded and he was evacuated and later died from his injuries. But what happened next? We'll give you a little bit more about cartel power than the shootout itself. Within hours, highways were blocked, vehicles were torched, strategic infrastructure disrupted, the airport was shot up, Puerto Vallarta, Guadalajara, a number of cities are on lockdown. People have to shelter in place. This is not a spontaneous rage. This is them trying to show that they are still in charge to their rivals, to the Mexican government, and to any CJNG commander across the country that may be getting ideas. The brand is going to survive. So let's clarify something, okay? El Mencho is not El Chapo. There are two different people, two different organizations, two different cartel structures. El Chapo, and I only say this because it's been bandied around all day. El Chapo led the Sinaloa cartel, which is an older, historically more network based. It's built on trafficking corridors stretching back decades. El Mencho, the recently dead man, led CJNG, which is a newer, more aggressive, hyper expansionist cartel that rose during the fragmentation era of Mexico's drug war and coincided a lot of its expansion with the Obama administration. CJNG grew fast. They branded themselves. They used paramilitary style propaganda. They openly challenged the state. They expanded into the fentanyl production aggressively. They are structurally different from the Colombian golden era cartels, as we used to call them, of Medellin and Cali, okay, where they were a whole different ball game than what the Mexicans are operating. That's all we'll say at the moment. But do not compare the two similarly, nor do you compare Chapo and Mencho. So when Escobar fell down the flight of steps, as we say, Colombia's cartel model was more centralized. It was a personality-driven empire with clearer vertical command structures. Mexico's system is different. It operates through plazas, which is territorial nodes. It franchises the violence. It allows semi-autonomous cells under the cartel banner. That means you can remove one man. You don't necessarily collapse the system. You can stress it, and stressed systems can do two things. They can fracture or they can consolidate violently. Now, we need to address something politically uncomfortable to some. During the Obama administration's Fast and Furious operation, thousands of firearms were allowed to move into cartel pipelines from the United States. While most trade traced weapons were tied to Sinaloa linked networks, the broader effect was clear. High powered weapons entered Mexico during a critical cartel fragmentation period. CGNJ has always been a big fan of military type weapons, and we're a number one buyer of those outside of what we'll have to say about Sinaloa. But CJNG seemed to be the pet, can't say that either, seemed to be the pet, we didn't say it, of the Obama administration in their war against Sinaloa. But you can responsibly say that it worsened the environment in which CJNG grew up in. And that environment was already volatile. So the real question you have here is what happens? Short term, lots of violence. Leadership decapitation in Mexico typically triggers a couple of things. You're going to have internal succession struggles. You have external opportunistic attacks from rivals, demonstration of violence to signal strength. You've already seen that as he's starting to burn gas stations and everything else. Medium term, we got to watch the money. If Mexico and U.S. authorities exploit this moment, targeting financial networks, chemical supply chains, and logistics corridors, CJNG could weaken significantly. And if not, then the brand's going to adapt. Cartels are evolutionary systems. They change names. I mean, if you remember the Ariana Felix cartels from the old days of Los Zetas, groups like that, which were very well known, not so much, right? There's still little bands of everybody out there somewhere, I'm sure. But CJNG was the group on the move. They were the modern, dare I say, Obama administration favorites, and they were out there to knock those CNLOs out of the box. Well, now they have to really go out there and sell themselves. But here's the geopolitical level, okay? Reports indicate U.S. intelligence support in locating Mencho. So that suggests coordination at a higher level than usual. If Washington is increasing operational cooperation, this could mark a shift away from passive containment toward active disruption. And I would say, without even knowing who's involved, that there was a good chance the president of Mexico was not fully informed about this because she's kind of snitchy. Could be wrong, kind of snitchy. Okay. So if Washington is increasing operational cooperation, like I said, this could mark a shift away from passive containment toward active disruption. The CJNG, as we said, seems to have been a lot more cozy with the Chinese. And ultimately, President Trump's goal is to break all of China's toys in the hemisphere. And if this is what he's been using, Chairman G, if you want to call him whatever, Mr. G, has been using to poison America's children with, then so be it. They're the ones that put they put that fucking bullseye on their head, not us. And I will tell you, if they hadn't been involved in fentanyl, we probably wouldn't even be having this discussion right now. We would just let Mexico continue to eat itself alive. So if this is a one-off symbolic win, then the vacuum is going to fill it up, and possibly with something worse. You never know. But El Mencho's death is a tactical victory. It is not yet a strategic one. And whether this becomes a turning point or simply another chapter in the eternal cartel war of Mexico depends on what happens in the next 90 days. Because in Mexico's cartel ecosystem, Power never really disappears, it just transfers from place to place. And as we said, you know, it's a nebulous thing. It should have been addressed, 30 years ago. Should have been addressed around the time of the Colombian issue, and it wasn't. The next big thing you're going to hear, you're not going to hear it, but you're going to hear it, is what are they going to do with Mencho's body? Sounds odd for me to bring this up, but in Narcoland, a lot of times you don't get the body back. That's part of the punishment. If you ever see those families or the Pink Cross families or things of that nature, if you become an enemy of our cartel and they want to punish your family further, they aren't going to show you the body. You're not going to get it. You're just going to wonder if they're dead or if they're alive. Not everybody ends up with their face on the back of a soccer ball. Speaking of soccer, FIFA World Cup is supposed to come to Guadalajara, I think, or someplace like that within the year. Good luck with that one. And it's just a fucking mess. But anyway, it was a big day for everybody. What I would say to any of those poor Mexican guardsmen that are out there, this is probably what you would have had as a rally. Like you're up against an undefeatable enemy, and they just turned around and put him in the ground, right? The Los Yankees did it. Even if we didn't do it, we did it. We have big shoulders. We can take the abuse. Expect some level of terrorism along the southern border, I would guess. As a guy said, if we game this out the way it would have been done in the old days, like in Colombia during the Los Pepes period, this guy's body would end up on the side of a road somewhere with a sign on it saying all the things he did wrong. And this is payback from the people of sunny Mexico. But they probably won't do that. It sounds odd to hear it, but that's kind of how things are done. But enough reminiscing about the old days. So otherwise, you're going to hear different things. This is what we've heard. The only variation would be that you hear that they tracked a girlfriend to get to him, which probably could have happened because the girls can't stay off the phones. It's not a stereotype if it's true. So that's about all for now. Otherwise, vaya con Dios. I'll talk to you later.